The Man Who Laughs is one of Victor Hugo's lesser-known works, published in 1869. Set in late 17th and early 18th century England, this novel is a powerful exploration of social injustice, deformity, and the cruelty of fate. It tells the tragic story of Gwynplaine, a boy who is disfigured by comprachicos, child buyers, to perpetually smile as part of a cruel punishment inflicted upon him by society. The novel's themes are deeply tied to Hugo's critique of aristocratic corruption and inequality. Like many of Hugo's works, The Man Who Laughs uses its characters and setting to reflect broader societal issues, in this case, focusing on the plight of the poor and marginalized. At its heart, the novel deals with the external and internal struggles of its protagonist, who is both pitied and mocked for his appearance. While on the surface, Gwynplaine's grotesque smile appears to be an object of laughter, the novel reveals that beneath it lies the suffering of a deeply sensitive and compassionate soul. It is a complex narrative of love, suffering, and the inescapable power of social class. The abandonment and disfigurement of Gwynplaine. The novel begins with the heart-wrenching story of young Gwynplaine. He is abandoned by a group of comprachicos, a band of criminals known for buying children and mutilating them to make them into objects of curiosity or exploitation. In this case, Gwynplaine is deliberately disfigured so that his face is locked in a perpetual smile, a grotesque grin that haunts him for the rest of his life. His disfigurement is a metaphor for how society distorts individuals to suit its cruel purposes. After being abandoned on the coast of England in the dead of winter, the child Gwynplaine wanders aimlessly in search of shelter. During his harrowing journey, he stumbles upon an infant girl, Dee, who is blind. She is near death from the cold, but Gwynplaine rescues her and carries her to safety. Ursus and the traveling show. Gwynplaine and Dee are eventually taken in by Ursus, a cynical but kind-hearted philosopher and traveling entertainer who lives in a caravan with his wolf, Homo. Ursus, who despises the aristocracy and frequently rails against society's inequalities, becomes a father figure to the two children. Together, they form a sort of makeshift family, with Gwynplaine and Dee growing up as performers in Ursus's traveling show. The trio travels from town to town, where Gwynplaine's deformity becomes the centerpiece of their performance. His face, eternally frozen in a grotesque smile, draws crowds, and the people laugh at his appearance, never realizing the pain he feels behind the smile. Gwynplaine becomes famous as the laughing man, but his fame is based on the very thing that causes him deep emotional suffering. Dee, who is blind and cannot see Gwynplaine's deformity, loves him unconditionally. For her, Gwynplaine's inner goodness is all that matters. The two develop a deep and pure love for each other, which contrasts with the ugliness of the world around them. Dee's blindness becomes a symbol of her ability to see Gwynplaine for who he truly is, beyond his physical appearance. Gwynplaine's inner struggles. While Gwynplaine becomes a public spectacle, adored and ridiculed by the masses, he privately wrestles with feelings of shame and self-loathing. His disfigurement makes him feel unworthy of love despite Dee's devotion. The public's laughter at his appearance is a constant reminder of his difference from others, reinforcing his sense of isolation. However, Gwynplaine's pain is not only physical or emotional, it is also social. He belongs to no place in society, too lowly to be respected, yet too unusual to belong among the common people. His perpetual smile becomes a cruel irony. Although he appears to be laughing on the outside, he is trapped in a world of sorrow and isolation, the revelation of Gwynplaine's noble birth. The novel's central twist occurs when it is revealed that Gwynplaine is not a mere commoner, but the son of a nobleman, Lord Clancharlie. As a child, Gwynplaine was kidnapped by the comprachicos as part of a political plot to punish his father, who had opposed the monarchy. His disfigurement was meant to be a symbol of the downfall of his family and a way of erasing his identity. This revelation comes when Gwynplaine is suddenly recognized by the authorities, who have been searching for him for years. He is informed of his true identity and is called to take his place in the English House of Lords. This shocking turn of events thrusts Gwynplaine into a world that is even more foreign to him than the streets where he once performed. Though he now has wealth and power, his disfigurement and past still isolate him, as he finds that even the aristocracy views him with disdain. The cruelty of the aristocracy. As Gwynplaine enters the aristocratic world, Hugo uses his experiences to critique the moral decay of the upper classes. Though Gwynplaine has been restored to his rightful status, he finds no compassion or understanding among his peers. The aristocrats are as cruel and superficial as the crowds who laughed at his deformity during his performances. One of the central figures in this critique is Duchess Josiana, a beautiful but morally corrupt aristocrat who becomes fascinated by Gwynplaine. She represents the callousness and decadence of the upper class, toying with Gwynplaine's affections while mocking him for his appearance. Josiana's flirtation with Gwynplaine highlights the emptiness of the aristocratic world, where people are valued for their appearance and wealth rather than their inner worth. Ultimately, Gwynplaine realizes that his noble title cannot erase his disfigurement or the societal barriers that isolate him. His smile, the source of his fame and torment, remains an unchangeable part of his identity. Gwynplaine's return to Ursus and Dee. Disillusioned with the aristocracy and horrified by their cruelty, Gwynplaine decides to leave his newfound position of power and return to the only people who ever loved him for who he truly is. Ursus and Dee. His return is bittersweet, however, as Dee has fallen gravely ill during his absence. Gwynplaine's love for Dee is unwavering, and her death scene is one of the most poignant moments in the novel. Dee dies in his arms, leaving him utterly heartbroken. Her death symbolizes the loss of the only pure and untainted love in his life, and without her, Gwynplaine's already fragile sense of purpose collapses. Gwynplaine's tragic end. After Dee's death, Gwynplaine, overwhelmed by despair and isolation, sees no reason to continue living. His disfigurement, his noble birth, and his suffering have all conspired to make him an outcast in every sense of the word. In the novel's tragic climax, Gwynplaine drowns himself in the sea, choosing death over a life without Dee and without hope. Ursus, left alone and heartbroken, is devastated by the loss of both Gwynplaine and Dee. Hugo's ending is one of profound melancholy, reflecting his belief in the tragic and unavoidable nature of human suffering, especially for those who are marginalized and rejected by society. Themes and motifs. The nature of beauty and ugliness. One of the central themes of The Man Who Laughs is the contrast between outward appearance and inner worth. Gwynplaine's grotesque smile makes him an object of ridicule, but it is also a constant reminder of society's superficiality. Hugo uses Gwynplaine's deformity to critique a world that values appearances over true character. Dee, who is blind, sees past Gwynplaine's disfigurement and loves him for his soul, while society at large cannot look beyond his face. The novel ultimately suggests that beauty and ugliness are not qualities of the body, but of the soul. Social injustice and class critique. Hugo's critique of the aristocracy is central to the novel. The revelation that Gwynplaine is of noble birth does not change his fate. Whether as a performer or a lord, he is still rejected and ridiculed because of his appearance. The novel exposes the hypocrisy and cruelty of the upper classes, who are as morally deformed as Gwynplaine is physically. In particular, characters like Duchess Josiana serve to illustrate the emptiness and decadence of the aristocracy, as well as their callous disregard for the suffering of others. Fate and human suffering. Like much of Hugo's work, The Man Who Laughs explores the theme of fate and the inescapable nature of human suffering. Gwynplaine's life is shaped by forces beyond his control. His disfigurement, his abandonment, his rediscovered nobility, and his ultimate downfall are all the result of societal forces acting upon him. Hugo portrays Gwynplaine as a tragic figure, whose fate is a reflection of the cruelty of the world. Conclusion. Victor Hugo's The Man Who Laughs is a powerful and tragic meditation on the nature of beauty, identity, and social injustice. Gwynplaine's disfigurement is a metaphor for the way society warps and dehumanizes those who are different, turning them into objects of ridicule or exploitation. The novel's exploration of the contrast between inner goodness and outer appearance remains a poignant commentary on the superficiality of human nature. Ultimately, The Man Who Laughs is a story about the isolation and suffering of those who do not fit into the rigid structures of society. Through Gwynplaine's tragic life, Hugo critiques the cruelty of both the masses and the aristocracy, revealing the deep injustices at the heart of a world obsessed with appearances. The novel's bleak ending underscores Hugo's belief in the inevitability of human suffering, particularly for those who, like Gwynplaine, are marked by fate from birth. Created for Squeeze That Book channel. Please subscribe to follow new videos and leave a comment with your thoughts about the book.